In mid-October 2025, several areas in the U.S. state of Arizona were struck by a series of shocking and destructive hydrometeorological disasters. An intense microburst followed by heavy rainfall caused flash floods in several cities, including Globe, Tucson, and the Phoenix suburbs. This event killed at least 3 people, injured dozens more, and forced hundreds of residents to evacuate their homes, which were submerged in water and mud. The microburst, a highly localized, high-speed vertical wind blast, was recorded on the evening of October 12th in the mountainous region around Globe. According to a report from the National Weather Service, NWS, winds reached over 100 kilometers per hour, strong enough to knock down power lines, uproot large trees, and damage roofs on homes and commercial buildings. The phenomenon lasted only a few minutes, but its impact was devastating. Some residents reported a thunderous, explosive sound before the wind struck, followed by torrential rain that lasted for more than 6 hours. The extreme rainfall that followed the microburst overwhelmed the drainage system in Globe and the surrounding area. Normally calm creeks overflowed rapidly, turning streets into raging torrents carrying debris, vehicles, and even chemical containers from local industrial facilities. Rescue teams from the Arizona Department of Emergency and Military Affairs, DEMA, were immediately deployed, but access to some areas was cut off by collapsed bridges and flooded roads. On October 13th, flash floods spread across Tucson and the Phoenix suburbs. In Tucson, rainfall reached 120 millimeters in less than 24 hours, breaking the local October record. Normally dry waterways turned into raging rivers, submerging homes in low-lying areas like Barrio, Hollywood, and South Tucson. City officials issued emergency evacuation orders, and schools were closed for 3 days. In Phoenix, the flooding caused major transportation disruptions. Interstates 10 and 17 were temporarily closed due to knee-deep water. Sky Harbor International Airport experienced more than 200 flight delays due to flooding in parking lots and terminal access roads. The Arizona governor, in a press conference on October 14th, declared a state of emergency and requested federal assistance for infrastructure restoration and humanitarian aid. In addition to the physical damage, the environmental impact of the flooding is also a serious concern. In Globe, floodwaters carried industrial waste from a metal processing plant into local rivers, raising concerns about drinking water contamination. The Arizona Department of Health issued a warning to residents not to use well water and provided clean water via tanker trucks to affected areas.
That's pushing 2 feet deep.
Meteorologists attributed the event to a combination of unstable atmospheric conditions, high humidity from a tropical system in the Pacific, and global warming, which intensified rainfall and wind intensity. The 2025 climate outlook indicates that this year will experience a weak La Nina phase, which typically increases rainfall in the southwestern United States. 3 people were killed in Globe, including a 9-year-old child who was swept away by the current while playing in his yard. Search and rescue teams are still searching for 2 residents reported missing in the hilly area. Local hospitals are treating more than 40 people for injuries ranging from minor to serious, including broken bones and trauma from falling debris. The Arizona government, along with the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, began setting up temporary relief centers in Tucson and Globe. Aid supplies, including food, clean water, blankets, and medicine, began to be distributed. However, some residents complained about the slow response and lack of coordination between agencies. Local volunteer groups such as the Arizona Disaster Relief Coalition helped by setting up soup kitchens and information centers. Economic losses are estimated at more than $150 million, including damage to infrastructure, homes, vehicles, and business disruptions. The agricultural sector was also affected, with reports of damage to cotton and corn fields in southern Arizona. Farmers are seeking compensation and recovery assistance from the state government. In the days following the event, social media was filled with dramatic videos and photos from residents recording the flooding and strong winds. One viral video showed cars swept away by the current on Globe's Main Street, while residents screamed for help. Another video showed roofs blown off houses by microbursts, striking power lines and causing small fires. Scientists from the University of Arizona stated that microbursts are becoming more frequent in desert regions due to changing weather patterns and urbanization, which amplify the thermal effects. They called for improved early warning systems and public education about the dangers of microbursts, which are often undetectable by conventional radar. As a long-term response, the Arizona government plans to strengthen the city's drainage system, build additional levees on small streams, and expand evacuation zones. This plan will involve an additional $500 million in funding over the next 5 years. Additionally, educational campaigns on disaster preparedness will be launched in schools and local communities. This disaster has left deep scars on Arizonans, not only in the form of physical damage, but also psychological trauma and economic uncertainty. Many families were left homeless, and the recovery process took months, especially in the Globe and Tucson areas, which suffered the most damage. Affected children experienced educational disruptions due to school closures and damaged learning facilities, while parents faced financial stress due to job losses and home repair costs. Economically, the flooding and microburst disrupted local supply chains, reduced agricultural and industrial productivity, and triggered a spike in staple food prices in some areas. Damaged cotton and corn fields caused significant losses for farmers, and many small businesses were forced to close due to property damage and reduced purchasing power. The state government had to allocate additional funds for relief and reconstruction, impacting other development programs. Environmentally, the flooding carried industrial waste into rivers and agricultural lands, increasing the risk of water contamination and damaging local ecosystems. Several species of fish and aquatic plants were reported to have died en masse due to changes in water quality, and environmental recovery is expected to take years. Furthermore, uncontrolled urbanization and outdated drainage systems have exacerbated the impact of the disaster, necessitating a review of spatial planning and development policies. Policy-wise, this disaster marked a turning point for the Arizona government in developing climate resilience strategies and early warning systems. Plans for levee construction, drainage improvements, and public education about microbursts and flooding began to be rolled out, but challenges in interagency coordination and budget constraints remained. Scientists and activists called for a more holistic, data-driven approach to addressing the threat of extreme weather, which is expected to become more frequent due to global climate change. From a social perspective, community solidarity increased through volunteer movements and community support groups, but disparities in access to assistance and information were also exposed. The poor and elderly were the most vulnerable, and many had not fully recovered by the end of October. The trauma of losing family members, homes, and a sense of security still loomed large in daily life, and mental health services were in high demand.
Dude, I feel bad
Overall,
for Toyota.
the microbursts and floods in Arizona were not just natural disasters, but also a reflection of systemic vulnerabilities that require comprehensive reform. From infrastructure to climate policy, from public education to community preparedness, their long-term impacts demand sustainable and inclusive change to make communities more resilient to future disasters.
Obviously, it came across northeast to southwest, or southeast to northwest. And I heard